Welcome to Boy Time Podcast. We're gonna get litty time, yeah. Oh, it's your Boy Time Podcast. Coming in with the slam dunk of a theme song.
Hi ho ho, it's me, James Mangold, back at it again with a new episode of the Boy Time Podcast. And as always, I'm joined by Babby. We have a decently big week this week. It's going to be somewhat niche, I suppose, because I think the big thing that happened this week in terms of media stuff is a bunch of Star Wars news with the Star Wars celebration. Yes, most of it is kind of ew. Yeah, there there was a couple things that were not shown to the public that I wish were, because apparently everybody who went to Star Wars Celebration who got in to see this panel got to see the Aardman Star Wars Vision short, which is the studio who made Wallace and Gromit and the Chicken Run, that studio.
I love Chicken Run.
I do too. I'm so pumped for Chicken Run 2.
It's my favorite concentration camp allegory.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It is, but it's good.
Yeah, but they make good stuff. So everybody in the panel apparently saw that, and then I don't know when that's coming out. Maybe did I write that down?
Write that down.
I think it comes out May 4th, because of course it does. Which is a Thursday, but I guess that works. But yeah, we got some updates on shows that we already know are happening. We got 3 new movies announced. Because I guess if everything is getting gutted and shut down, then I guess they have to announce 3 new ones. And I think one of them sounds really interesting. One of them is I don't know, fine. And then the other one is like, okay, whatever. Those are kind of my opinions, but we'll get there when we get there. Well, we usually start with gaming news, and we don't have any. So, whoops. Yeah, I don't think I've seen anything.
All right, let me do the official. There we go.
It didn't even get picked up on OBS.
Oh.
That's so weird.
Audience, there was a funny, sad trumpet noise.
Frick, yeah. Discord added a soundboard. And for some reason it didn't get picked up. Or it did, but I didn't see it move in the recording software.
Hopefully it got picked up on my recording. We did it last night, too.
That's a good point. I don't know. I don't know if I have, like, if that's the same output. Whatever, this is we'll talk about this later. But yeah, so we'll get started. I guess we'll start with movie news. I think we'll get all of the not Star Wars stuff out of the way first, and then we'll do a Star Wars news dump. So the first thing that was announced this week is that we got a release date for the live-action Minecraft movie.
Hooray. I feel like this has been announced 7 million times.
Yeah, but now we have a set-in-stone release date. And who's going to be playing Steve? I don't know if you saw this. Do you know who's playing Steve?
This.
Okay.
I do.
It is Jason Momoa.
Great.
A weird pick. But then again, I don't know who I would get. Maybe Henry Cavill would do it.
The first person on iStock that you see.
Yeah. If they had any guts, they would just have it be like some random nobody.
Some dude. Yeah.
But they didn't do that. Jason Momoa, maybe he's too swole for Steve. I never pictured Steve as a swole man.
Yeah, I didn't But I guess if you're building stuff and breaking trees with your fist, I guess you got to be kind of swole.
That is true. That is true.
I would have liked to seen Dwayne Johnson as Steve personally, and then like Kevin Hart would be his funny sidekick, and it'd just be the same movie as the other
That's
ones,
Jumanji.
but it'd be Minecraft.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I read a plot synopsis of this at one point. I think it's just like they have to fight the Ender Dragon or something. If I remember right, this was a while ago.
The dream speedrun movie.
It's just, yeah, it's going to be the dream manhunt
Yeah.
in a movie, which is going to be awesome. It's like Old Boy, but better. Yeah, but that is coming out on April 4th, 2025. So I don't even...
I'll be dead by then.
Yep. Hopefully. I don't...
Maybe.
I don't think it started filming or anything yet. But you know, as soon as those production stills come out, I'm going to be talking about it. Because I need to know what this is going to look like. A live-action Minecraft movie is a weird choice. Why not have it be animated by Illumination?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I guess that's slight foreshadowing to something I'm going to be talking about a little later. Okay, speaking of live-action video game movies, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie got a release date. So someone's excited. It releases on October 27th in theaters and on Peacock at the same day or
My
same
end
time.
of the year movie list is going to be so stacked.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what to think of this Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I'm not going to see it, but it'll be interesting to see what the reviews are.
Matthew Lillard's in it, so it's got to be somewhat decent.
I mean, he's great and
He only
everything.
plays good characters.
Well, that's not entirely true. I think 2 out of the 3 things I know him from, he's like a bad guy. Shaggy, he's good, but he's like the bad guy in Scream, and he's the bad guy in, well, not the bad guy, but a bad guy in Twin Peaks, where he's like cheating on his wife and he gets his head blowed up.
Yeah, he does. It's unfortunate.
It's a little unfortunate. He's only in a couple episodes. Yeah, I finally watched the Red Letter Media video where they talk about Twin Peaks: The Return. Yeah, it's like an hour and a half long because that's how much time you need to talk about that show. I still don't really get it, but I'm glad somebody does.
I think it's fantastic.
I mean, it's pretty good.
Unironically.
Unironically. Yeah, I think I was frustrated when we were watching it because I was like, man, when the frick is Agent Cooper gonna show up? Because he's like my favorite. But as it was going, I fell in love with Dougie Jones.
Dougie's great.
Dougie's great. I love the casino scene is probably the funniest bit of media on the entire planet.
Yeah.
Hello. And then he just wins every time he hits a slot machine, but he's a baby. It's very, very good. I would recommend Twin Peaks. Just the whole thing, I guess. I think there's a little bit of a disconnect where I feel like your everyday person can kind of understand your Twin Peaks, the original TV show, because I feel like that's somewhat accessible.
Maybe.
Somewhat accessible.
Somewhat accessible.
It's the most
David
accessible
Lynch's
thing.
version of it is non-accessible.
It's the David Lynch. This is the most expensive David Lynch thing, except for maybe The Straight Story.
Yeah. The other guy he worked with, I'm forgetting his
Mark
name. Right
Frost.
now. Yeah. He makes a TV show anybody can understand.
Yes. And then David Lynch comes in and ruins
He also made the worst parts of that show.
That is true. And I believe he wrote a book after The Return
Yeah, he did.
that was like that like tried to rationalize it, the
Yeah.
return
It's like,
into
no,
the
you're not
Twin
supposed to
Peaks.
do that.
Yeah, it's like
It's
I don't
David
know.
Lynch.
David Lynch does his own thing. You don't want to come in and then be like, "This is actually what happened." It's
Yeah.
like,
The
no,
gem of David Lynch is finding out your own interpretation,
yeah,
even though there is technically a correct interpretation, I think,
I
for the
think
most part.
so. Sometimes,
Yeah.
unless it's like Inland Empire or something, that movie doesn't make any sense. And I don't think
Yeah.
David Lynch made it to make sense.
No.
Like he was just toying around with a video camera, and he was like, "Wouldn't it be neat if I made a movie that was shot on video? But I'm just gonna make a bunch of little shorts and tie them together." It's like that, okay. And that was the last David Lynch anything for a while until Twin Peaks: The Return. So I'm glad he went out with a bang instead of Inland Empire. And Mulholland Drive, he didn't even finish writing before they started shooting it. They were
That's
shooting it,
awesome.
I think they were shooting it sequentially. And he was just like, I don't know how to end this. Whatever, we'll just start shooting it. And so that movie also kind of feels a little weird, but I'm also not the biggest David Lynch fan. So maybe David Lynch stands
Nerd.
like that one. I feel like
I
it's
haven't
more
seen
nerdy to be super into David Lynch
No, yeah,
than
it
to not
definitely
get
is.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know I'm gonna be watching a whole bunch because like every single one of his movies are in the like surrealist dreamscape section of this like 1500 movie poster I got. So I will eventually see all of the David Lynch projects, and I will be very great.
One of them will click and then you'll get it.
One of them did click, and it was The Straight Story. It's just
Oh,
like all of the Straight Story is like Twin Peaks without all of the like the weird surrealist dreamscape and just all of the like Heartland charm that David Lynch loves. Because you know, like all he loves like small towns, specifically in the Midwest, which is weird because he's not from here. But he does have a house in Fairfield, Iowa. I didn't know this.
interesting.
Yeah, but my girlfriend's from there, and I brought up David Lynch, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, I know who David Lynch is." I'm like, "How do you
I
know
know
who
his
David?"
house.
Well, she doesn't know where his house is, but she's like, "Yeah, he lives. He lived around because there's Fairfield. I don't know if you know this or whatever. There are a bunch of like domes in Fairfield. They practice. It's like some sort of like transcendental meditation or something. Some
Most normal
spiritual.
Iowa town.
Yeah, it's some weirdo wahoo stuff. But like the Beatles went there when they were all into their wee-wo stuff. The Beach Boys went there, and David Lynch has a house there. Maybe that's where he is right now because he's not doing the weather in LA.
True.
So maybe he's in Fairfield. Hard to say. If he is, I would like to go to his house and demand some answers.
He won't give them to you.
No, he won't.
He'll give you more questions.
What the hell? What are you doing here?
What are you doing?
Yeah, he's probably the best guy in the whole world. Even though I just said I'm not a fan of his. I'm a fan of him as a person. I'm not a fan of his work so much. But yeah. In other news, we got some word on James Mangold's Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothy Chalamet.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So it starts filming in August. And Timothy apparently is going to be doing all the singing in this movie. Which, granted, you don't have to have a great voice if it's a Bob Dylan biopic.
True.
You can just kind of go, hey, hey, ooh, stuff like that. It should be pretty good. James Mangold has made some pretty G-dang good movies. Made Logan and Ford versus Ferrari and 310 to Yuma. He's making that new Indiana Jones movie. So, who knows? This might actually be pretty good. We'll see. Also, Beau is Afraid, which is coming out next week, I think. It got debuted on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's at a 75% with 36 reviews as of right now. I don't know if this is a good thing. Sometimes the critics, when the critics are split on a movie, that's a good thing, in that it is divisive, and that some people love it and some people hate it. Depends on who you are, I suppose. But the Mario movie also had critics split, so I don't know what that says about anything. I did see one of the reviewers, say that this is the most divisive Ari Aster movie, which I thought was surprising, considering that the last movie had a scene where a guy got his, face smashed in by a giant mallet.
That's normal.
That's pretty normal, and I guess audiences loved it because every white girl's favorite movie is Midsummer. Or at
The
least
aesthetic.
the aesthetic of Midsummer, where it's just always daytime. It's awesome.
Alaska.
Pretty much. I think that movie takes place in like the northern, like Scandinavia. I
Oh,
forget
yeah.
what. Yeah, I forget what country it is. It might be Sweden, but
Sweden.
yeah, they're like going during the. Is it summer solstice? I think it's the summer solstice. So it's like just always sunny. Yeah. So I don't know. I am planning on seeing Beau is Afraid. The runtime listed on Google is 2 hours and 59 minutes. So I have a feeling that this is going to be a little overindulgent. But I mean, I think his other movies were pretty long too. And I've heard that Joaquin Phoenix, I think I saw someone say that he acts his ass off. And I'm like, he just does that in everything. Like, I've never seen Joaquin Phoenix phone it in. But I also think he's pretty selective with what he chooses to do, which is why he was in 2 superhero movies. Well, one upcoming, I suppose. So I think that's it for movie news. Should I talk about the Mario movie now? I can talk about it.
Spoiler-free review.
A spoiler-free review.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is my most anticipated piece of media ever.
Okay.
It would be a shame if I got it spoiled.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's not really gonna matter because you've seen this movie before,
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
that like it plays on like every single Mario trope, and also like just like it's a very basic movie formula, in that Bowser is going to attack the Mushroom Kingdom.
Hero's journey, blah blah blah.
It's kind of it's definitely a hero's journey. So then Peach is like, we need to go to the Donkey Kong Kingdom to recruit their army, because if there's one thing that the Donkey Kong people are known for, is it is amassing large armies worth of monkeys. I remember that from Donkey Kong Country. Yeah, I don't know. This is a weirdo movie. That being said, I feel like maybe I should establish some credibility in that I have played every single Mario game. I have finished every single 2D Mario game, and I have 100%ed every single 3D Mario game. I am decent enough at Mario Kart, and I know how to do a Mario Party.
I doubt it.
I doubt it. I thoroughly enjoy all of the Mario games. Maybe not the sports ones all the time, but yes, I am a pretty decently big Mario fan, and I thought that this movie was very mid. And I don't know if you're not a fan of this property, if you're going to enjoy it a whole lot. Then I say that, but I did go see this with my girlfriend, and I know what you're thinking. Everyone out there is thinking that I dragged my girlfriend to go see the Mario movie, and that is not true. She dragged
That's
me.
correct.
I didn't even want to go. I was like, she was like, "Do you want to go see this?" And I'm like, "Not really." And she's like, "I thought you wanted to." I'm like, "Well,
You're a
no,
journalist, quote unquote. You're a podcaster. It's fairly,
sure, I'm a journalist.
yeah,
Put that on my resume."
yeah.
No, so she dragged me. So take that, people. I don't know,
Atheists.
atheists. So yeah, I went and saw it with her, and she liked it way more than I did, and she thought that I was like, "Have you ever played a Mario game before?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, I used to play like Super Smash Bros. All the time." I'm like, "Well, that's not really a Mario game. It's only a Mario game in the fact that it's called Super Blank Bros."
Good
And
enough for
then,
me.
and yeah, she's like, "Well, yeah, I've played like the old NES ones." And then she was like, "Try." I asked her to give me like a rundown of the Mario things because she was like looking it up on Wikipedia, and she's like, "Yeah, Mario started off as this 2D thing, and now it's a fighting game." I'm like, okay, you did not get very far in that Wikipedia. But yeah, she liked it way more than I did, which I thought was shocking. I thought for sure that the movie was going to end and then she was going to lean over and be like, "That really sucked." But she leaned over and said, "I really, really liked that." I said, "Okay, wow, okay. Whatever you say." I think and here's how I kind of rationalized it. I think to people who are not familiar with Mario or are really well versed in Nintendo at all, they know, "Oh, I remember him. He was in the Nintendo Entertainment System, and the princess is in another castle. I remember that. I remember playing that in the 80s." Those kinds of people this movie is kind of made for. The fanboys, or anybody who has a pretty decent amount of knowledge of Nintendo or whatever, is just getting waterboarded with references. It is overwhelming to the senses how many references they cram into this movie, especially before they go into the Mushroom Kingdom. Because this movie starts off in Brooklyn.
As any good movie should.
Every movie should. And it's the premise is that the Mario and Luigi, they have a plumbing business together, and the family thinks that they are a bunch of screw ups. They gave up a job in construction, a stable, steady job, just to follow this dream, which I guess their dream is to start a plumbing business. I don't know. And so then Mario and Luigi are like, "Oh, I'm really sad, wah wah." And then there's a big flood. The sewer system is backed up in New York City. And so the Mario brothers are on the case. And while they're investigating the pipes, they find a very mysterious giant green pipe. And then they hop into it and they are transported into the Mushroom Kingdom. And so when we are in Brooklyn, it is just
We're not in
constant.
Brooklyn
We're
anymore.
not in Brooklyn anymore. Well, actually, they get like separated. The pipe like splits off, and Luigi goes one way and Mario goes the other. That's how Luigi gets captured by Bowser, of course.
Ah, yes, of course.
So yeah, they don't even get to say that we're not in Brooklyn anymore. But while they're in Brooklyn, it is too much, because there's like the little commercial that plays. There's that commercial they released that was it was like the Mario Brothers Super Show rap, but it was like a commercial for Mario's plumbing business. So then that plays in full. Very similar to, there was a trailer for The Secret Life of Pets that was just a bunch of cute animals, and then like that just played in full in the beginning of that movie. Illumination likes to do this, where they just, instead of like even just creating a trailer for their things, they just put the trailers in the movies, and I don't know.
Saves money.
I guess it saves money, and it pads the runtime, which is always good. So then that plays, and then it's like, "Oh, that was a good commercial." But in the commercial, they're doing like the Mario voices. So like Chris Pratt is doing the wahoo, let's go. He's doing the voice. He's hamming it up, and then the commercial ends, and he's like, "What about the voices? Was that too much?" Just to, I guess, throw salt in everybody's eyes, just who wanted the Mario voice. And then, to add insult to injury, they were like, "Is that too much?" And then this is where you get the Charles Martinet cameo. He's like just some random guy playing Wrecking Crew, because of course he's playing Wrecking Crew on an arcade cabinet, and he's playing it, and he's like, "I don't think it was too much, wahoo!" And he does like the Mario jump thing, and I'm like, okay, this is off to a terrible start. And then Luigi gets a phone call, and it's the GameCube startup sound, and I'm like, this is like way too many references in the span of like 2 minutes, and it doesn't really let up until you're out of Brooklyn. Like all of the signs and everything. Granted, that's not super in your face as that scene was, but like, I'm trying to even think. There's like a duck hunt bar. Man, it's been a couple days since I've seen it, but suffice to say that there's too many references when they're in Brooklyn, and then once they get to the Mushroom Kingdom, it is a very, very straightforward hero's journey type thing, with no spoilers. I will say a lot of people have been talking about this Jack Black song, and I'm going to be a dissenting voice because I hate it. It was kind of funny in the movie when Bowser plays a slow jam 80s song on a piano about how much he loves Princess Peach. And of course, Jack Black knocks it out of the park, as always. I think he's a very, very good performer. I think he's probably the best part of this movie, if I'm being honest. And this is kind of my gripe when it comes to video game music, and more specifically Nintendo video game music. Whenever they make a song for a video game that they use, they often fill the lyrics with references to the video game you're playing, which makes it difficult, at least for me, it makes it difficult to separate the song from the game, and it's kind of cringy. Using a recent example from our best songs of all time video, where someone suggested an Evangelion song, that song still gives the feeling of the movie, even if you haven't seen it, because I guess, that's what you said, because you haven't seen it.
Taking words out of my mouth.
I know. And the thing that comes to mind is that song in Mario Odyssey, where the big old firework events going on, and then Mayor Pauline is singing her song, and there's like, "I'll be your one-up girl." I'm like, shut up. That's so corny. Like, please just have it be real lyrics. Don't insert lyrics about Jumpman or getting big mushroom. It's like, stop. It's not like
This is why Pokemon is the best Nintendo franchise. They don't talk.
Oh, that's true. That is true. And there wasn't really a problem in Mario until this new one. And then whenever I brought up that I didn't like that song, I used to get like side eyes from people being like, "What are you talking about? This is like a fantastic moment. One of the best moments in video games is this giant celebration." I'm like, I don't know. It might just be a me problem.
You're the issue.
It might be. I don't know. But yeah, there's he's singing this song about peaches, and yeah, Lyrical Lemonade made a music video with Jack Black where he sings the song.
Great.
It's a pretty good music video. I mean, Jack Black is great. But yeah, I like when it was announced that like Lyrical Lemonade was partnering with them and that it was going to be released on streaming services, I just like all of the comments were just like, "Oh, this is going in the playlist day one." I'm like, how are you guys listening to this without like cringing yourself to death? I don't know.
I think you underestimate how many people listen to video game music.
Well,
no matter how bad it is.
listening to video game music I somewhat understand if it's solely instrumental stuff.
Yeah.
Like, or even like not even stuff that's instrumental, like Snake Eater. That is not necessarily a song about Metal Gear, and the lyrics aren't just like, "Oh, you're a solid snake sneaking through the world." It's like it's just kind of a James Bond theme that coincidentally has Snake Eater in it. But you can totally listen to that song without playing Snake Eater or even knowing what Metal Gear is. It's really g-dang hard to listen to that Mario Odyssey song not having played Mario Odyssey. And I think Peaches is going to be the same exact way. Not that it has to, it's just a gripe that I have. But yeah, I will say, this, I will give the movie some credit. I got used to Mario being played by Chris Pratt almost immediately. There was like the first line he said, I kind of, I'm like, oh yeah, this is Chris Pratt. And then like, it didn't really bother me, like for like 99% of the movie. Mainly because he's just doing a Brooklyn accent. It's not like it's not even like an Italian Brooklyn accent. He's just doing a Brooklyn accent. Charlie Day is kind of doing an Italian accent. I think it helps because he is actually Italian. Maybe they should have got someone who was actually Italian
Oh, are
for
you kidding me?
Mario. I know
I wanted Christopher from The Sopranos to play Mario.
that would have been fine. I would have liked that. It would have been a weird pick, but at least they would have been actually
That would
Italian.
have been funny to
Yeah, it would have been funny. So,
AI Gandolfini.
well, I don't know about that. His son is an actor, though.
Oh, there we go.
What's his name? It's not James Gandolfini. His son is Michael
Gone.
Gandolfini. He was in the Mini Saints of Newark, which is like the Sopranos prequel. He played Tony Soprano in that.
Of course.
Great casting. He's also in Beau is Afraid. So
Fantastic.
I will see him relatively soon in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, he is an actor. I don't know how he sounds, but I mean, he's Italian, so it would have been a better cast than Chris Pratt. I think literally anybody would have been a better casting than Chris Pratt. But it wasn't like so bad that it took me out of the movie. So I will give the movie that. That is like such a like backhanded compliment, but I mean it's true. I'm trying to think because like all of the other cast was great. Yeah, I literally can't think of anything bad to say about any of the other castings. The movie looked pretty good, I guess. I think it's kind of weird to combine the like Pixar style photorealism with Mario. But I don't know. Illumination doesn't have an original thought, so and they're still copying Pixar from 2013, so that I guess that's the style we're getting. It would be too much to ask them to actually make anything stylized or interesting, which is something I kind of hope that modern Pixar kind of picks up on, because not that their photorealism looks bad, but they've been doing the same kind of shtick for 25 years-ish. They need to have a Spider-Verse moment. DreamWorks had a Spider-Verse moment. Sony had a Spider-Verse moment in that they made Spider-Verse. Even Nickelodeon was making that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that's like super rough and stylized. It's like I think this is the next step. I think Spider-Verse is the next step in terms of what animation can do, or what mainstream animation can do, because there is plenty of indie animation that is doing weirdo shit. But I guess that is a tale for another day. Mario movie, I think I gave 2.5 stars out of 5. It is like the most middle of the road movie I have ever seen. So there you go. It is uh, it is better than Cocaine Bear. So technically, Mario movie is my movie of the year so far.
Let's go.
So there we go. The bar is incredibly low for Beau is Afraid. So I will give my review on that probably 2 or 3 episodes from now, depending on when it comes out and when I go see it. I think my girlfriend did say that she would go see that with me. And then I told her it was going to be a 3-hour horror comedy, and she still said that she would see it with me, but I don't know if she is going to. I'm not going to drag her to it. I want everyone to know that I'm not dragging my girlfriend to see any of these movies, because I am perfectly fine seeing movies by myself, and I did that for...
You've done it for years.
I do it forever. So, yes, it is not like that at all. Let's see. Oh, I do have one little bit of movie thing. I accidentally put it in show news because I'm a coward. But speaking of James Mangold, we did get the first poster for the new Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. And, oh boy, it's a good poster. It is very reminiscent of the Drew Struzan hand-drawn kind of posters of old LucasArts and Spielberg, those kinds of posters, your Goonies, your Indiana Jones, your Star Wars. Blade Runner is also a Drew Struzan. Yeah, I mean, Drew Struzan is kind of like one of the best poster designers in my opinion, and Dial of Destiny borrows heavily from it, and I think it looks really g-dang great. I think the stand-in poster that was like old Indy with like the hat over his eyes, and then it just had like the logo. If that was the final poster they were going to be using, that would be incredibly disappointing, given the previous installments. But yeah, kind of like how in the new Star Wars movies they use photographs instead of drawing it, and it looks weird. But I guess if you do that, if you do photos, then you can like have Finn be really small in the poster for the Chinese audience, because I guess the Chinese market doesn't like black people. So instead of having Finn be really big in the Force Awakens poster, you could have him be really small. I don't know why they did that, but they did. I forgot what else they changed in that poster. I think they made Han Solo and Chewie really big, if I remember right. Kind of interesting, but there you go. I think that's everything that isn't Star Wars related. Yeah, most of the Star Wars stuff, there's not a whole lot to talk about, because they didn't reveal a whole lot. I guess we'll start with show stuff, and then we'll go to movie stuff. For shows, I guess the first thing you talked about was Andor Season 2. I would argue that Andor is probably the best Star Wars thing that we've gotten. Probably since the Disney takeover, and I would say that this first season is better than most of the Clone Wars, which is one of my favorite Star Wars things. It looks like that it is about half filmed right now, and it is looking to release in August of 2024. Unfortunately, Tony Gilroy did confirm that this is going to be the ending of the show, which is very disappointing, because originally it was going to be 5 seasons, and I would have loved that, but it's like set 5 years before Rogue One. First season is, so then it would be every season is a year closer to Rogue One, I guess. And then it was cut to 3, because people weren't excited going in, including myself. I was like, who cares about an Andor show? Rogue One sucked. And then I was very, very pleasantly surprised. And then I think the viewership was pretty low because it isn't like filled with Easter eggs and legacy characters and whatever. It's just a really, really great political spy thriller that just so happens to be in Star Wars. It's fantastic stuff. But I guess that didn't apply to a bunch of people, so then they cut it down to 2. So now he has to fit what was going to be 5 seasons into 2. But see how that goes, I suppose. I'm a little sad, but I think Tony Gilroy will pull it off fine. The next thing that they announced was, well, this isn't an announcement, this is an update. An update for the Acolyte, which is going to be set in the High Republic, so around 200, 300-ish years before the Phantom Menace, when the Jedi Order was at its peak. The Sith are all gone, or so they think. And so it's a pretty peaceful time, but the Acolyte is, I think the Sith are going to be the main protagonists. It's going to be the Sith in hiding, kind of, whatever, training, getting stuff done before Palpatine, of course, kind of takes that plan to the end. But we did get some new castings, which I think is kind of interesting. Lee Jung-jae, I think that's how you pronounce his name. That is the main character from Squid Games. He is going to be playing a Jedi Master, while Jonas Suotomo will be a Wookiee Jedi Master, who he took over for Peter Mayhew when he died. Peter Mayhew was the guy who played Chewbacca in the suit. I think he died after The Force Awakens. So then this guy has been Chewbacca ever since. It was revealed that this is the weirdest combination. I don't know who at Disney greenlighted it based on this pitch, but it was pitched as Frozen meets Kill Bill. I don't know what that means. It sounds bad. If I is Anna gonna put on a yellow jumpsuit and kill the people who killed her unborn child? I don't know. Maybe the Sith will kill a bunch of people who killed their unborn child and then shoot ice out of their fingers. I don't know. Yeah, but apparently someone at Disney thought that was a good idea, and so then they greenlit it. But that's really all we have about that. I think that's supposed to come out next year. We got more info on Skeleton Crew, which is the Goonies, Stranger Things, Star Wars thing. We got some news that I guess Jude Law is going to be playing a Jedi, and I don't know. I think it's set in like the Mandalorian timeline, so like 5-10 years after Return of the Jedi. But it's a bunch of kids who go on an adventure throughout the galaxy. I think it's John Watts' kind of brainchild, who makes the MCU Spider-Man movies. Frankly, I don't necessarily trust this guy to produce an original vision. To me, those Spider-Man movies seem like director for hire MCU projects. I don't necessarily see a lot of creativity in those movies, in how it's shot or in any of the style, really, at all. And maybe I'm just biased because I just watched those Spider-Man, the Raimi Spider-Man, and those things are just filled with creative stylizations and movements. But I guess John Watts, he wants to make a Star Wars, so I guess this is going to be it. We got the director lineup, which I think it's kind of all over the place. There are people who make like exclusively like great stuff, and then there are like people who have like never made TV shows before. So we'll see. But of course, the director lineup starts with John Watts, who I guess kind of started this. David Lowery, who made like Green Knight, Old Man and the Gun, and Ghost Story, which are like very stylized indie movies. The Green Knight, I mean, it has one of the coolest posters of the last decade. I would highly recommend anyone look at that. I believe it's high fantasy, but I have not seen it. Daniels, I don't think they necessarily need any introduction. Jake Schreier, this is the guy I was talking about who has like zero TV stuff. He mostly does music videos, mostly for Kanye, Justin Bieber, and Benny Blanco. I don't know if any of those people are necessarily known for their music videos.
Kanye is definitely known for his music video.
I don't know
And everything else.
which ones he has done.
Yeah, which ones did he do?
Jake Schreier, let's see. Kanye West, he did a couple for Jesus is King. He did Closed on Sunday and Follow God.
Okay, those are both mid.
Yeah, those are the only ones he's did for Kanye.
Those aren't even really music videos. Those are just like footage put together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Compared to something like Power. If he did Power, then you're in good hands.
He did not. These are the only Kanye music videos.
Although I think Kanye directed Power, so that makes sense.
Oh. Let me see. For Justin Bieber, he did. It's Justin Bieber and Benny Blanco. They did Lonely. I don't know that song. Yeah, I don't know like any of these, so I don't know. It's kind of weird. He's like, he mostly does music videos, and then it's like he directed like one episode of Shameless, or he directed like one episode of Dave. You know. Oh wait, apparently he directed We Cry Together? Okay, apparently. It's interesting. Okay, so it seems like he's, I don't know. It's very all over the place. But I guess he's doing an episode of the Skeleton Crew. Next is Bryce Dallas Howard. She has done like one episode of each season on The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. I think her episodes are very, very hit or miss. Like she did the most recent episode of The Mandalorian, the one that has Lizzo and Jack Black and Christopher Lloyd in it. And that episode was hot trash. So, yeah, I don't know. But she's made some decent ones in the past, so whatever. And then the last one they showed was Lee Isaac Chung, who made Minari, which was like an Oscar-nominated movie a couple years ago. So there's a lot of like good talent in here, and a lot of mid talent. So maybe it'll be good. There's probably going to be standout episodes. I'm going to assume that the Daniels episode is going to be weird, and I hope it is, because that's all I ask from that. So, there's that. That's it for Skeleton Crew. Ahsoka, I think this is coming this August. It seems to be like Rebels 2. So if you have seen Star Wars Rebels and you are itching for the next installment in that, this seems like it is very much that. I was not super into Rebels. There's some good episodes. Most of it is pretty okay. But, it seems to be building towards Grand Admiral Thrawn as being the big bad, which I do like. Grand Admiral Thrawn is a very interesting villain in that he's like a master strategist, but he also has kind of this weird morality code, which I think is indicative of a good villain, I think. So if he's going to be the big bad of this Mandoverse, that could be pretty interesting. But that's pretty much it. There was a new trailer. So if you wanna know more about it, then I guess watch the trailer. I'm not gonna go super in depth over it, because it's mostly pretty self-explanatory. So there's that. We got Tales of the Jedi will return for season 2. We don't know what Jedi they are going to be focusing on this time. Last time it was 2 Clone Wars Jedi, and well, I guess Count Dooku's not a Clone Wars Jedi. It was before the Clone Wars he was a Jedi. And then it was Ahsoka. The Count Dooku ones were really interesting, and the Ahsoka ones were the Ahsoka ones. I'm very interested to see what season 2 will have. I have seen some people throw around the idea that they aren't necessarily just going to stay in the Clone Wars era, and that they might have like a couple Rey episodes, or they might have some like Luke Jedi training ones, or even some like Old Republic, High Republic stuff. I don't know. But we did not get anything on that. We got Kathleen Kennedy. She said that Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2 is not in active development. Good, keep it that way. I know Ewan McGregor is like, please make a Season 2, because the first one was so well received. I don't think that's true. There was like one good part of that show, and that was when Flea was in it. That's not true. Flea was in it though. So yeah, it was pitched as a limited series, and I think they should keep it that way. We got some stuff. Bad Batch Season 3, the final season, is coming out next year. Bad Batch Season 2 did finish, and I thought it was okay. Not as good as the first one, but the last couple episodes did kind of redeem it in my eyes. So we'll see what's going on there. The last bit of Star Wars things we're going to talk about are the 3 new Star Wars movies that were announced. I'm hoping that these are a little more set in stone, in that they were announced during a Star Wars celebration instead of like an investor call like all of the other ones have been. So hopefully these are more set in stone than a Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron, or the Rian Johnson trilogy, or the Game of Thrones trilogy. I think the Rian Johnson one might still be happening, but I think Rian Johnson's like, yeah, I mean, I'm planning on it, but like, I'm just waiting for Lucasfilm to reach out, and then we'll start working on it. But I guess they haven't done that yet. But we'll talk about the 3 new movies. We'll start with the least interesting one, I would say. Which is the last one. Of course, they closed out with the least interesting one, and then they started with the most interesting one. So, I don't know. The last movie they announced was, it is going to be directed by Dave Filoni, who I feel like he doesn't really need an introduction if you're somewhat knowledgeable on behind-the-scenes Star Wars stuff. He worked with George Lucas. Well, before that, he directed a lot of episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then he co-directed and created The Clone Wars with George Lucas. And then after Disney acquired Star Wars, Clone Wars was canceled. Dave Filoni started Rebels. And then now he's more or less the creative director over at Lucasfilm. Mostly animated stuff. All of the animated stuff is more or less his brainchild. I believe he's creating the Ahsoka show, which makes sense since he created Ahsoka, period. And yeah, I think he's somewhat involved in Mandalorian. I'm not sure to what extent. I know that is mostly Jon Favreau. But yes, he is getting his own movie that is going to be, I guess, the Avengers Endgame of the Mandoverse shows. which I don't know.
I think I just threw up in my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like,
I
okay.
hate all of this so much.
Yes, this is, I don't know. I like Dave Filoni a lot. He's made a lot of stuff that I really enjoy, but this just seems so corporate.
This is all corporate.
Yeah.
The past 20 minutes has been full corporatism.
Yes. But this especially, I would say. And then it's like, we have been building to something big. Kevin Feige is God among men because he made us $1 trillion. So yeah, people were like really excited for this too, and I'm like, I don't. This is like the
Of
least
course they are. They're
exciting
Star
thing.
Wars fans.
This is like
kidding
the
me?
least exciting thing. Especially since like I feel like the Mandoverse shows have really kind of fallen off. Like the first season of The Mandalorian's really solid. It's mostly because they had something to prove, and now that it's successful, everything has just kind of been meh. Nobody's hungry anymore over at the Star Wars team, except for Tony Gilroy, because Rogue One sucked, and so he's like, I can make good things. Please trust me. And he does. He has made a good thing. So that one is pretty not interesting to me, but I probably will see it at some point. The second one they announced, the one that I'm kind of on, but it kind of makes sense, I suppose. It is a movie set 15 years after The Rise of Skywalker, the episode 9, the last episode of the Skywalker saga. It is Rey finding and training the new Jedi Order, and Daisy Ridley is going to apparently come back. It is unknown as to whether or not John Boyega will come back. I think he should, because he is the most interesting character in the sequel trilogy. But I know that John Boyega does not want to, which is understandable. But it is going to be directed by Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy. Mostly does feminist-style documentaries, and then she directed some of Miss Marvel, which is not entirely out of the ordinary, because Disney does do the practice of poaching indie filmmakers and documentarians to make some of their like more commercial stuff, because these small indie people who have not had a significant commercial hit, they are more easy to control. So I'm assuming that this is we can kind of mold this movie to be whatever we want, a la like Ant-Man, or even like a Sam Raimi for Doctor Strange 2 is like, he doesn't even like making movies anymore. I don't even know how they got him. So yeah, I feel like this has maybe a little bit of potential, maybe. But I think Rey is the least interesting part of those sequel movies. I know some people will disagree, but I don't know. She's not a flawed person. She doesn't seem like a real person, and her backstory and stuff is not super interesting to me. So there's that. But then the one that I am decently interested in this, in that it seems weird, and it seems like this is somewhat of a they're taking a chance with this one a little bit. This is a movie set 25,000 years before the events of the Skywalker saga. It is going to be something about the first Jedi ever. This is going to be, and so this is directed by James Mangold, who we have talked about already in this podcast. He apparently is describing it as a biblical epic, and he specifically called out Ben-Hur and the Ten Commandments. I have not seen Ben-Hur yet. I have seen the Ten Commandments. I believe it's 4 hours something. I watched it in many different chunks as a wee boy. I don't know if that is indicative of how long this movie is going to be. Probably not. Okay, it's 340, but it is a very, very long movie. So I think that is really the only one that's like kind of an original idea in that it is not reliant on previous properties or previous characters or anything. This is just a story that I guess is somewhat an origin story of all of the Star Wars stuff, but this isn't going to be like a this isn't an Ahsoka show. This isn't a Boba Fett show. This isn't an Obi-Wan Kenobi show. This is something that's going to have no characters that anyone recognizes, and it's just going to be a straight up sci-fi biblical epic, which I think has some potential, and I think that James Mangold has made a bunch of really solid stuff. Even when he's made big corporate superhero movies, he made Logan. So he's willing to I feel like Disney knows that he's not really one that they can mold, really. And he's willing to have original ideas and make creative decisions. So hopefully that is indicative somewhat of quality. But that was it for projects and announcements and stuff. Yeah, I don't. There was a golf clap there. If you couldn't hear it, I don't know if OBS is picking this up. But there you go. I think that is all the Star Wars news that we have. There was a lot of like other little things, but I don't know. I'm only really interested in the stuff that is going to come out or that is more set in stone. I'm not going to really report on whispers or rumors or anything, or like one-off comments that someone said in a panel that may or may not lead to something. I don't care about any of that. So, yes. One little thing I will say. I think Kathleen Kennedy did say that Taika Waititi's Star Wars film is still happening, and that they aren't bringing any other writers to work with him, and that they are working to protect his creative voice. I don't know how much of that is true, because Marvel definitely interrupted his creative voice in the new Thor: Love and Thunder, or I think there's two reasons for why that new Thor movie was pretty meh. One was that Marvel wanted to force in the Natalie Portman Lady Thor, and Taika just kind of shoehorned it in because it really doesn't fit the tone of what he was doing, which was like this little stupid slapstick thing. So I think it was kind of two-pronged, because Marvel wanted that because they wanted to sell action figures of Lady Thor, but Taika was like, I don't want to make a Marvel movie anymore, so I'm just gonna make like the stupidest movie ever, and just have fun with it. And so like the movie's kind of tonally inconsistent because Taika's making this stupid movie where there's screaming goats and Thor is naked in front of Zeus. And then Natalie Portman has cancer, and the only way that she can get out of bed in the morning is by holding the hammer and becoming Lady Thor. But then they like shoehorn these like heartbreaking segments where Natalie Portman's like, I have cancer, I'm dying, and the only way I can not die is to hold this epic hammer and be a super lady. And then Christian Bale has like a really sad backstory that doesn't really fit. It's just it's kind of it's not very good. So we'll see. Well, I don't know how much of I don't trust Kathleen Kennedy anymore. Not that I ever trusted Kathleen Kennedy, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But that's it, I think, for everything I have. All of the updates, everything we have to talk about. I have not been watching a bunch of movies, except for the Mario movie. But I probably would not have had a movie to talk about this week. Well, I definitely would not have had a movie to talk about this week if not for the Mario movie. Hopefully, over the next couple weeks, things will start lightening up, but I've been very busy. So, I'm finishing college, so I have to finish up a bunch of papers.
Yippee.
Yeah, very exciting stuff. So especially this week, I'm going to be in the trenches and writing a lot. So that's it's not going to be fun, but I do have to do it, unfortunately. So I will not have a bunch of time to watch movies. I actually, it's kind of hard to believe I ever had a time where I was able to watch 3 movies in 1 week, and that was like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, I'm gonna
Can't
get
even watch one episode of Succession.
I
Maybe.
can't. I've been like, I know I'm bad, and especially I don't
I'm
know.
just gonna binge it one day. At
Yeah,
this point.
I don't know if you've seen anything about the most recent
No.
episode. People are saying that it's like one of the best episodes of TV ever.
Great.
Comparing it to Ozymandias, and I did get one aspect of it spoiled, but it wasn't like a huge spoiler. It's just like you'll never believe that blank happened, and it was like kind of a generic thing. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of sucky. So I do need to watch it, but I have not. So
Nothing like Twitter to spoil something out of thanks Elon for the algorithm making no sense on the For You page where you'll just get spoilers for a show that you don't even watch
well, here's the thing. It
without
wasn't even
ever
on Twitter.
interacting with it. Oh, it wasn't even on Twitter.
No,
Okay.
I got it was like a news update to my
Oh,
phone that was like, you'll
that's
never
even worse.
believe blank. And I'm like, why would you send that to me?
You'll
have-
never believe this.
It's like my phone has heard me talk about Succession only in the context of this podcast and that I haven't watched it.
Yes.
But they've picked it up enough to where it's like, oh, you like Succession. Here's something about the most recent episode. I'm like, oh no, you cowards.
Things.
So I did. It was a news alert to my phone that was a slight spoiler. It wasn't a total spoiler, but I do know that something happens, which is unfortunate. So yeah, I will watch it soon, maybe next week. Inside baseball. I have a 15-page paper due next Tuesday. I have 1 page written.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And the page I wrote was the hook, which is really the only part I'm really good at, because I'm not good at researching things, I wouldn't say, because I can't read. So it makes it very difficult to.
It's good that you're a history major.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not in the right place. So yeah, so I gotta write a big old paper about Japanese Reconstruction after the war. So I wrote
Yes.
a very long paragraph that was like
What war? World War II?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So I wrote a very long paragraph that was like a first-hand account of someone who lived in Hiroshima after or during the bomb. And this guy was a photojournalist who actually, there's only 5 photos that have made it out of the bomb, or of the bombings and stuff. that were taken on that day, and those are all of his photos. I can pull up his name because I have the tab open. His name is Yoshito Matsushige. Very interesting fellow, apparently. So I wrote a page about him, but that has nothing to do with what my paper is going to be, which is Japan being built up by the United States, and the United
sir.
States being like, capitalism, but China's right
The
there.
only reasons we nuclear bombed them.
Yeah. Which is
Right
kind
out of
of
the playbook. Right out of the playbook. They didn't do that anywhere else.
no,
Uh-huh.
no. Oh yeah, it's very, very, very interesting. And I found out that when they bombed Hiroshima, less than 10% of the people that were killed were military personnel.
Yes, it was mostly
It was
civilian.
mostly civilian, to a very high extent.
Yes.
It was mostly civilian.
We did not need to drop nukes. They were already like surrendering.
Yeah, I mean,
It was completely unneeded.
that is the position I am taking
Yes.
in this, because it is crazy. Like,
It is blatantly obvious.
oh yeah, no, it is. It's pretty bad. But the thing that I am doing is the conflict, the Cold War. Japan is being pulled apart by they are occupied by the United States. We are still over there. We're still technically occupying Japan. We never actually
Yes.
pulled out. So I guess 80 years later, we're still over there. But yeah, they're occupied by the U.S., but they want to trade with China because it's right there. And they're communist, and so the United States is like, no,
That's a
you can't
no-no.
do that. You can't do that.
Here,
So-
let's set up a capitalist hellhole in South Korea. Maybe you can trade with them.
There you go. Nothing bad will ever happen in Korea.
Nothing bad happened in Korea.
Yeah. I'm not gonna write about Korea probably. I
I could
barely
write a
know what I'm
15-page
talking
paper
about.
on Korea right now.
I barely know anything about Asian history. The only reason
It
I
is
picked-
incredibly complicated.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think what are my dates? Yeah, so the class I'm in it's in East Asia since 1600. So we could write
God.
anything about East Asian history from 1600 to now. And we could literally write about Shinzo Abe getting his head blown off.
Getting murked, that's awesome.
Yeah, but I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about Japanese politics or
We're
Japanese
bozo.
history.
Hell nerd.
Yeah, well, I mostly studied U.S. history because that's where I live, and I think that's pretty dang interesting. To know how we were very sucky for like ever.
Always.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting to learn all the stuff that they don't tell you. But in my last semester, I am tired, and I don't really want to touch on these really heavy subjects anymore because I've been doing that for so long.
I've written about the nuclear bomb.
This is the only thing I could think of to connect it to the United States and somewhat write about American history in Japan. So I can kind of relate American history. I kind of have a background of how America does international diplomacy, and I can kind of apply that here.
Diplomacy.
Yes,
Quotation marks.
diplomacy. Yeah. I had another paper that was due last week that was we were just supposed to pick a problem in contemporary history and then write a paper about it. And like the examples she gave was like abortion and gun control and police brutality. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about any of these. This sounds way too heavy. I'm gonna write about film remakes, and that's
These aren't
what I
even
did.
contentious. These are just freaks like versus normal people.
No, but like the assignment more specifically was provide the history of these issues, provide both sides, and then give a solution. What would you do to fix this issue? So I gave the history of film remakes. More specifically, I researched copyright law for way too long.
Yes.
Because
The
that
biggest rabbit hole ever made.
yes, which is actually kind of interesting, and I could talk about it on the podcast, because I was
Does
specifically
directly pertain to what we talk about usually.
true, and I was more specifically looking at why Disney is doing these live action remakes. Like, we know that it's for copyright reasons, specifically with like the older ones, right? So like their Dumbos, your Pinocchios, they're remaking Snow White, so that's gonna be one. I'm trying to so yeah, they have like the really old ones, so those are mostly for copyright reasons, and then your Mulans, your Aladdins, your Little Mermaids, those are more just well, there's no risk here because it was already successful. So if we can just make the same movie again, it was just guaranteed money, baby.
Easy.
So that's not really interesting to talk about because I can more or less sum that up in 2 sentences. But the intricacies of copyright law and how Disney is skirting around American copyright laws are very, very kind of interesting, and very sneaky, because it's very different than their previous approach. Because I don't know how well known this is. At least for Zoomers, it might be more a thing that millennials and Gen Xers remember. But Disney has a history of lobbying Congress to extend copyright terms.
Didn't they just do that like 10 years ago?
They did that, I think the last time that copyright terms were extended was in 1996. But it's probably going to happen soon. Because when Disney lobbies Congress for something, it happens immediately.
Oh yeah, obviously.
I found a report that Michael Eisner, who was Disney's CEO in the 90s, lobbied to Congress in August of 1996, and in October, they passed a new law extending copyright terms. So it took 2 months turned around for Disney to come in and say, we need this changed, and for Congress to respond. It takes way longer for them to respond to literally anything. But if Disney comes in, I suppose that those are different rules. But yes, so copyright, from like its conception in 1790 through like 1950, was it 1950 something? Late 50s. It was 28 years. Your terms were 28 years plus a possible 28-year extension if you applied for it. So a total possibility of 56. Mickey Mouse comes out early 20s. So then once the 50s come around, they're like, uh-oh, we got to start thinking of stuff because our copyright on Mickey Mouse is about to expire. Then the 70s roll around. Disney goes to Congress and says, knock, knock, we need copyright extended because the mouse is about to be in the public domain. So then Congress comes together and then produces new laws, extends the terms 20 years. So Disney doesn't have to think about it for 20 years. But then 20 years pass, and they lobby Congress again. And in 1996, I believe the official act name is the Sonny Bono Copyright Term Extension Act, which all it does is extend it another 20 years. But detractors at the time called it the Mickey Mouse Protection Act, which I thought was hilarious.
That's the one that everybody knows.
That's the accurate one.
Yeah.
So, yes. Patterns would show that Disney is probably going to lobby Congress sometime this year, considering that the first Mickey cartoon came out in 1929. The current copyright terms extend to 95 years, making the first Mickey cartoon in the public domain in 2024. So they're cutting it close this time. They've never cut it this close. They usually give a good 5 to 7 years extension before they lobby Congress and change laws. So if they're going to do it, they're cutting it very close, but they don't necessarily have to.
They've kind of changed their strategy because now they just buy everything.
Yeah. So that was, you have to think about what Disney was doing back in those days. The 70s and the 80s are largely referred to as the Disney Dark Ages, where their animation department was not the priority of Disney. They were mostly focused on like TV stuff and the parks. Those were their money makers. So that's what they were focusing on. The animation department, I believe the CEO at the time, like straight up just didn't like movies, kind of like the HBO or the Warner Brothers CEO of today. So then once he was replaced by Michael Eisner, then you started actually getting some good stuff, the Disney Renaissance. So then Disney was like, okay, we need to prioritize copyright stuff now, having, getting the terms extended. But now Disney is a super mega conglomerate that owns just about everything. And what costs less? Making a movie and getting some stuff in return. So actually making a profit. So you're actually getting paid to extend your copyright. Or going down to Congress and getting the laws changed, which inadvertently helps the competition that has also been around for a very long time.
And is a bad PR move.
It's a bad PR move. So they can kind of skirt around it like that. But it is important to note, and I'm not a copyright lawyer. I need to state that right away.
Not help anybody who's a copyright lawyer.
No. Do not
Worst
use...
job on the planet.
Do not... yeah, I would not want to be a copyright lawyer. This is way too confusing. But also don't use this advice to get out of a copyright jam, because I am not an authority on this subject.
It won't work.
It won't work. But here is my interpretation of dusty copyright law and how Disney is skirting around it. Because just because they are remaking a new movie does not artificially extend the copyright of the original movie. I used Dumbo as an example in my paper. So Dumbo came out in 1941. 95 years after that, the original copyright is going to end in 2036, I think. Is that right? Whatever. 95 years. It's going to expire in 2036, so it came out 95 years before that. Whatever. So, just because they released a new Disney movie, the new Dumbo movie in 2019, does not extend the original copyright of the 40s Dumbo to 95 years after the 2019 Dumbo movie. This is kind of confusing. But what it does is once 2036 rolls around and the original Dumbo is in the public domain, they can do nothing to stop that movie from going into the public domain. You can download that movie, you can sample it in other movies, you can do whatever you want with that Dumbo movie, no consequence. There's nothing that Disney can do legally to stop you from, altering that movie or using it in one of your things that you profit on. There's nothing they can do about that. What they can do is if you want to make a Dumbo movie, even though the original Dumbo is in the public domain, you can do whatever you want with that original movie. If you make a cartoon elephant with big ears that's flying, you're going to get got by Disney. But they're not going to sue you based on the 40s Dumbo. They're going to sue you based on the 2019 Dumbo and say, you're stealing our idea that we came up with in 2019, you cowards. Danny DeVito is rolling in his grave because he was in that movie.
Real.
Yeah. So Disney can extend their copyright over dusty old properties by making new movies that are visually indistinguishable from their old movies, and then they can sue you after the fact, after those old movies are in the public domain, based on the new movies. And that's why, for the most part, except for this Little Mermaid one, but I totally expect them to remake it once Little Mermaid gets closer to expiring. But in all of these old remakes, the characters in these movies are very, very, very similar to the ones that are in the old movies. So like the live action Dumbo looks very similar and has like the same kind of outfit that the 50s one does. The Pinocchio in the new Pinocchio looks exactly the same as the animated one. Jiminy Cricket looks exactly the same as the animated one. So that once Pinocchio goes public domain and you make a character that looks like the Disney one from the 50s, they can sue you on the new one. Does that make any kind of sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know.
Well, I'm in this field, so this makes sense to me. It is incredibly confusing.
I don't know if I'm doing a good job explaining it because it's so
Basically.
complicated.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, because like when I got into this, I just thought, oh, they're doing this to extend the copyright of their old movies, and in a way they are.
Technically, you're correct. Yeah, it's just not like as like straight up like, oh, this is extended now. You don't have to worry about it.
Yes, they can still get you if you use their characters,
And they will. You'll
and
never
they
win against
will.
that.
Yes. Even even if you do it like 1-to-1, exactly the Pinocchio from the old one, they're still gonna say, "You stole that design from our 2021 Pinocchio, you coward." Yeah, it's a weird system. I spent way too long looking at copyright law and other people's interpretations
your
of
brain.
copyright law. Yes, I did not
With
enjoy that.
AI generators coming mainstream now, this is a absolute nightmare.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do not envy you having
It
to
is
look at this all
awful.
the time. Yeah, so most of that paper was detailing copyright law, and then like a little bit of it, just like a smidgen, was like, remember how like Constantine Films and 20th Century Fox had to keep making Fantastic Four movies every 10 years so that they could keep the film rights? What's up with that? But ultimately, that didn't even matter because Disney bought 20th Century Fox, and now Disney can make Fantastic Four movies all they want. So, isn't that nice? The problem
Yep.
was solved.
Yeah.
It's kind of
For
weird.
someone.
Why didn't Constantine Films just make Fantastic Four movies? Like, why do they want to hold on to the rights like forever if they weren't going to make Fantastic Four movies? Doesn't make
They're
any
like,
sense.
this is the one. We're gonna like come out with a banger one day.
One day we're gonna do it. But I
Oh
think
yeah.
what's really funny about that is that they made a Fantastic Four movie in the 90s. So before the Chris Evans one, that was never released. They, produced it, they shot it, they edited it. It is completed. And they just never released it because the
That's
whole
awesome.
point of that movie was to keep the film rights. And they did technically make, and they marketed it. They just never released it in theaters. So you can see like movie posters and trailers and stuff for this movie. It was never ever released. You can still watch it because it's, been bootlegged or leaked or whatever. You can watch it on YouTube, but it was never released outside of this leak, I guess. So I wrote a little bit about that because that's kind of interesting. And then like my solution was like, there's really nothing that one person can do. If like everybody decided to stop watching these movies, then maybe Disney would
That
stop.
would never happen though.
Yeah. If
Yeah. It's not
but
realistic.
the new Lion King was the 9th highest grossing movie of all time.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
they're reading the message, and the message is, we like this. Keep doing it. So Yeah. Oh, and I have a list. I had no idea how many live action remakes are in the works, and I was kind of shocked because I knew like the big ones, right? Like I knew The Little Mermaid, like Moana was just announced, but like I didn't know there's like 10 that are in the works right now. So we got The Little Mermaid, Snow White, Hercules, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Sword in the Stone, Robin Hood, Bambi, The Aristocats, Lilo and Stitch, and Moana. And those are all probably going to come out between the next like 5 and 8 years.
Great.
Yeah, it's a little staggering. The ones that are like for copyright reasons are Snow White, Bambi, Sword in the Stone, Robin Hood, probably Aristocats. I don't know why they would want to remake Hunchback. I feel like that
Yeah, I
might
feel
be a
like that
little
one's forgotten.
controversial.
Yeah, that too.
It's like you can't really call people hunchbacks. Like that's just a medical condition. I don't even know. I think they might be doing a like Cruella treatment, and that it's like maybe about the bad guy or something for that one. But like, who cares? Like people know Cruella de Vil. People know Maleficent. You know who knows the iconic look and design of the bad guy in Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yes, I can picture him now in my head. I will not describe what she looks like.
I believe it is just like it looks like a guy from Bloodborne, just like an old man. He has like a tri-pointed hat and like a cloak or
That's awesome.
something. I've never even seen it, but I can kind of picture the guy, and it's like almost exactly the guy from Pocahontas. So
Great.
yeah, yeah. So it's a little bit weird. I of course will not be seeing any of these. I would urge everybody who's listening to the podcast to not watch any of these. But
It won't make any
it won't
significant
make any
difference, but it
significant
will it
difference.
will help your mental health because they're
Yes.
all not good.
No, they're not. That's the thing with these live action remakes is that I don't think there's one of them that's any good or even worth seeing over the original. There's not enough differences made to make it worth seeing. People are freaking out because in the new Little Mermaid trailer they changed 2 words in a song
Yeah.
to make it more politically correct or something. I don't even know what song they're referencing. Is there a song in The Little Mermaid that uses a racial slur or
Yeah,
something?
they just say the N word like 3 times in The Little Mermaid.
In Under the Sea.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little weird,
It
but I
was a
guess it was
little
a different
harsh.
time.
It was a different time.
The original didn't the original come out in like 1989 or something?
I don't remember.
Little Mermaid. 1989. I don't know why. I don't know why I remember that.
Little Mermaid stand.
That's me. So, yeah. So that's what I've been doing. I haven't been watching any movies or enriching myself creatively, but I have been researching copyright law and atomic bombs.
Awesome.
So that's pretty awesome. So that's it for me. I guess I'll throw it on over to you to do music.
There's like one thing.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
I was-
The Amine and Catronata album, Catramine, I think they're calling it.
Oh.
They released their first song and the release date for the album, which is May 12th. So soon, which is what a good rollout, honestly. It's like single Friday, music video like Monday, album release date Tuesday. Like that's how you do it. That's what I want. So yeah, May 12th. The song Forever is with Pharrell Williams. It's a bop. Amine is like a perfect like summer like pop rap artist. He's kind of got the Anderson .Paak effect where it's like hits different in the summer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great. Beats pretty beat's pretty good. Not like Keisha's craziest, but it definitely works. Pharrell does the hook. The vibes are off the charts, so I'm excited for that one. But that's pretty much it in the music sphere.
That's
I
it.
didn't really see anything else come out this week. I think Boy Genius got their first number one, or
Yes,
all
they
members
did.
from Boy Genius got their first number one. I think that was the
Yeah.
only other noteworthy thing I saw, um, which is cool. Uh, yeah,
I do have a little thing. I guess two little things. Because I
cool.
guess, well, Post Malone did post that there's new music soon. And then there was like a pre-save link or something. I don't know when it's
I'll
coming out.
definitely be listening to that. Haha.
I don't know when it's, what it is. There was like a little snippet and it was like, I don't know. It was like kind of orchestral if I remember it right. But
I
maybe
feel
I'm
like
not
we as a
remembering.
society have moved past the need for Post Malone, but maybe that's just me.
That's probably true. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this new single will be absolutely transformative.
He makes like one good song, and then I get a little bit of hope, and then I listen to the albums, and I'm like, nah, this is I literally don't remember any of the other songs.
Yeah, I think we're past the beer bongs and Bentleys
Yeah.
days, unfortunately. But there was a new Spotify singles for Lizzie McAlpine, who we are going to
yes.
be doing a reaction to next week. Very exciting. Well, actually, it won't be coming out next week.
Be
I
coming
have
out
to
in 2 weeks.
remember that
Yeah.
podcast and videos are a little different. It'll be coming out in 2 weeks, but we were recording it next week. We are doing her first album, Give Me a Minute, and then I guess if you guys like that, we'll do her second record, which is very different, but still interesting. But the Spotify singles, she did a cover of A Little Bit of Everything, which I think is a
Of course.
Dawes song. But it's man, it's so good. Yeah, her cover of it is just fantastic. I would highly recommend everybody listening to it. She also does like a Spotify singles of one of her songs, but I mean, it's
I
fine.
feel like the highlight of all the Spotify singles are always the cover songs.
Yeah. Is it always one original song and one cover?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Because I've only
from what I've
listened.
known.
I've only listened to the Lucy Dacus one.
Yeah, because Lucy did a cover, Phoebe did a cover of The Cure, Mac Miller did a cover.
Okay, so it might just always
Yeah.
be one cover. I mean, Lucy's the highlight of that one was her song because it was
That's true, 'cause
the
there was no
live
auto-tune on
version
it.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this one, man, I would highly recommend. If you're into
I'll
Lizzie
wait until I
McAlpine,
listen to the main album first.
well, the Spotify singles are more in tune with the 5 seconds flat
Instead of the one where
instead of Give Me a Minute. Give Me a Minute is almost entirely her and a guitar. Very kind of Nick Drake.
yes.
5 seconds flat is more like a Claro or something. I mean, she just got, you get more money, you get more budget. That's kind
I
of
get
what it
better
is.
production.
You get better production, and you get freaking Phineas and Jacob Collier, whatever, on your record. So there you go. But there's that. That's
Awesome.
all I have to say.
Cool. Yeah, music is incredibly slow this year, so I have not been listening too much or reporting on much. So, sorry.
There was just one little stretch. We got a lot.
Yes, there was one little stretch. There's been like 3 or 4 great albums this year, but there has not been a lot of volume.
No. And it seems like it's just like, oh, we have like a little rush, and then
Yep.
stop. Oh, a couple stuff comes out, and then like 3 weeks of
And
nothing.
it sucks that it all comes out at once because then we have to rush to make videos on all of them.
Yes.
I'd rather it be paced out, but
Yeah, I guess we can't ask for that.
no.
Surely something's gonna come out. Some stuff's gonna come out this summer, I would
Yeah,
assume.
I would assume so. BMW and Frank Ocean are doing this weird little Coachella ad campaign thingy. They're using this Nostalgia Ultra car. So I don't think Frank's going to release any music before his Coachella thing in a week or two. But I could be wrong.
I forgot that's like right around the
Yeah.
corner.
He hasn't canceled yet, so he's at least going to perform, it sounds like.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll
So-
see if there's like new music there.
Yeah, we'll see.
But-
I highly doubt it, but I don't want to get my hopes up.
Yeah. True.
He's making jewelry or whatever he's doing.
He's re-releasing Blonde with Kendall Roy on the cover.
That's awesome. I'd buy that vinyl.
Oh, didn't he? Oh no, Kendall
Or any
Roy wasn't on
any
that one.
Blonde vinyl.
He re-released it. Remember when he did that?
Yeah, he did, and I missed it.
Yeah. I already have it. It's not real.
Yeah, a
but
fake
I
one.
do have it. Yeah. It still works. Still
True.
Blonde. Just not official. So I guess that's podcast. I don't think I have anything else to talk about.
No.
I guess Death Stranding 2 is starting production.
Great.
That's fun. Trying to think of stuff. I've been playing a little bit of Risk of Rain 2. It's fun.
Awesome.
It's a fun time. It's a good little roguelike. Or I guess I always get them confused. What's the difference between roguelike and roguelite?
I honestly have no idea. I didn't know they were different.
You didn't know they were different?
No.
Okay. Okay. So roguelite games incorporate a level of permanent out-of-run progression. So think Hades. That's like a roguelite. Whereas this game is a roguelike, where it is, you get items throughout the game to upgrade your guy, and you get better and better and better. But then once you die and reach the end, there's no like permanent progression that you get where it's like increase your health by 500%, whatever, to spend 500 crystals to get a new little man. None of that. There are just a bunch of challenges that you do with each of the playable characters to unlock new playable characters or new weapons or whatever, but there's no sense of permanent progression. I would like to give a little shout out if you are looking for a good rogue light. I would check out Rogue Legacy. Very good game. Just came out, I think last year. Didn't talk about it because I'm a coward, but there you go. That's it. I think that's it for podcast. So
True. I feel like I should switch my music section to like a book section at this point.
yeah, maybe
I've been reading more than I've been listening to music.
you've been reading. You can talk about books you're reading.
It's all communist literature. I don't think people are going to care.
No, you can still talk about it.
Real.
It's still art, kind
I
of.
suppose in a way.
Is it?
Not really.
Okay.
There's a couple sentences where I'm like, ooh, that sounded really good. But most of it is pretty mundane.
You weren't reading like The Handmaid's Tale or
No.
1984 or something.
No. Believe it or not, Lenin does not have a romantic tongue.
No, but he was college educated.
He was very college educated.
Yeah, he's one of the few Soviet leaders to be college educated.
Yes.
Him and
Very
Gorbachev.
well backed up. I hate Gorbachev.
Gorbachev, yeah, he was the only USSR leader to be college educated.
And he was the worst one. What
Was
does
he
that
the-
say, kids?
I don't know if he was the worst one. Stalin killed a bunch of people.
Yeah, but Stalin was the reason why like the Soviet Union lasted more than,
Yeah.
40 years. I mean, that's what happens when you have a world war and a billion
Oh.
people to take care of and help build up a thing. So I
Yeah.
haven't read much Stalin yet. He has a
I
couple of good works, but
I don't know. I don't like Stalin. Mainly it's because he killed like a bunch of his own people just for like speaking out against him. He was very authoritarian in that
he was, yes.
respect. I don't necessarily like people like that.
You don't vibe like that.
No, not
Unfortunate.
really.
Yeah, I could go through all of them. I'm not going to do that right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about the middlemen. I know Stalin and Gorbachev. And I know that Gorbachev was in a Pizza Hut commercial, and that does give him points in my book.
That gives him negative 7 million points in my book. So
But it's pretty sick to see him in a Pizza
it's
Hut
so
commercial.
awful.
It's pretty sick. It's just like
Yeah.
you're imagine being at Pizza Hut and then you see Gorbachev over there with his silly little like birthmark with his granddaughter eating a big old cheese stuffed crust pizza. It's pretty
I
awesome.
hate it. I hate it so much. But yeah, I'm not gonna go into all that right now. It's
Okay.
like that's a 2 hour discussion of like why you know, everything. But
Well,
yeah.
stay tuned for the supplementary Boy Time communist
Yeah, I'm just gonna
works.
radicalize Jerry live on air.
Well, I don't know about that. I think it would. Um, I am no radical, but you know, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, it's very mundane. It's not anything to talk about in a podcast unless I have an
No.
exclusive podcast to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll make a Patreon and then put
Yeah.
the communist episode of the podcast out.
Yeah, because that's what we would put behind the paywall.
Of course, of course. That's what people have been asking for
Yeah, of course.
of all of our stuff. So, yeah. So, there we go. That's podcast. Anything for next week to look forward to?
No, I don't think so.
When does Bo is Afraid come out? Am I going to see that this week or next week? It's 21st. Okay, so next week.
2 weeks from now.
I will. Well,
We will talk
just
about
next
it,
Friday.
right?
Yeah, next Friday it will come out. I will see it that weekend, and then we will talk about it on the podcast coming out on the 27th. So, there you go. Yeah. So, next week, there's nothing to look forward to.
Right.
Unless you see the Mario movie, and then we can have a spoiler discussion for
Maybe.
Mario.
If I'm really feeling up to it.
I wasn't feeling up to it, and I still saw it. So.
That'll give me an excuse to see Craig Marcus's beautiful face, I guess.
It's true. There's a little stinger running with Greg where he's with his dad.
Ooh.
Yeah, very very old. I don't know. I don't think it's Greg Marcus Senior, but it's very cute. I got very excited. My girlfriend, who likes everything super cutesy and all that kind of stuff, when I was like, "Yo, Greg Marcus, he's so cute," she's like, "Not really." I'm like, what the hell? What is your problem? Why do you hate old people so much? Why do you hate
Well, people do kinda
CEOs?
suck. Why do you hate CEOs?
I don't get it. Greg Marcus is the only good CEO in my book. I don't even know if that's true. He might be a terrible person.
There are 0 good CEOs.
True. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the CEO of a small Midwestern theater chain is probably better than David
Yeah,
Zaslav
he's still
or
better.
whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way he talks, he seems to genuinely like movies. But he might also be putting on a front to get me to spend money at a Marcus theater.
It's all a ruse. He's the moneymaker.
Frick. I always knew that Greg Marcus was the proletariat we need to be fighting against.
No, you don't fight against the proletariat. You are the proletariat.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Bourgeoisie.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. I knew that. I don't know why I got that twisted.
God, liberals. Am I right?
I'm not a liberal. How dare you?
I'm a secret third thing.
I would consider myself a leftist, but not a liberal, because liberals make me roll my eyes, and I do not enjoy.
Liberals make me want to jump off a building.
Yeah, they are kind of the worst. Well, not the worst.
Not the worst.
I should
but the other
say
side
that.
is just brain dead, so I don't need to think about that.
Yeah, they're not the worst. They don't outwardly want trans people to die.
No, they just will kind of stand by while it happens and
Yeah,
kind of like speak out against it a little bit, but not really do anything.
Yes. J.K. Rowling is a liberal. She is like the crowned liberal
Yes.
in my eyes.
Yes.
So
Yeah. She is like the omni-liberal. She is like the head lib.
the head lib.
She like mistook an Engels quote like on purpose on Twitter like 2 weeks ago, and I lost
she
my
did.
mind. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm like, I love when that happens. Thank you for doing that in bad faith.
Well, I mean,
J.K. Rowling?
did you expect her to do it in good faith?
No, I didn't. It's just like the fact that she did it at all is like, why?
That's a good point. Oh man, I'm trying to find it now. She posts a lot of anti-trans stuff, which is
Yeah,
weird.
she's not a good person.
Remember when she was like kind of sneaky about it?
Yes, she doesn't care anymore. I feel like she's got the Elon effect where she's so big and she has like an audience of brain dead people with her that like she doesn't care that she is like to hide it anymore.
Yeah. After a long stretch of being literally Hitler, I've become ideologically Stalin. Who accused J.K. Rowling of being ideologically Stalin?
I don't know.
Is it because she used the Engels quote?
No. People don't know what they're talking about, I swear.
Yeah. Okay.
Most people don't know much about Stalin anyways. Myself included at this moment because I have not read him. No, a lot of the crap about him is like not in good faith, of course, but
I've read neutral things about Stalin, and
he's done some really great things and he's done some very questionable bad things.
Yeah, I don't think purging all
No,
government.
the purges
and
were like awful.
Not great. And forcing political dissenters to work in work camps are not necessarily a good thing either. I would argue, but
It depends who the political prisoners are, of course.
yeah, but
This is a whole nuanced discussion. It's
yes.
hard to do discussions like this when we're not, reading the same materials and in the same headspace to do a formal discussion on these topics. This is not like normal American political talk because everything is incredibly nuanced and needs to be taken in good faith at all times.
Yes. We also come from very different backgrounds,
Also true.
so it's very, very different.
Yeah, it's hard if someone has like read a lot of literature too compared to someone else because then it's like we're not even on the same like talking field at that point.
Yeah, I can't read. Makes
Yeah.
it difficult.
And I never read, and I read now. So
Oh, okay.
because unfortunately, you do have to read to be in my political ideology.
Yeah, I can't read. Sucks.
I feel like if you did read the stuff I read too, you'd like hate your history major so much.
Oh, I absolutely hated reading Marx.
Yes.
Marx is one of the worst writers I've ever read.
Yeah, he could not edit himself to save his life. Engels tried his best, but he did not do very well.
No,
Convincing. Capital is like 1,300 pages, and that's only the first volume, and that took me so long to get through. It is like so hard to read.
Yeah, it is. It's like the thing with Marx is that like if it was like 5 pages or 10 pages, I feel like it would. I mean, he's good stuff. It's good stuff. He knows what he's talking about. It's just a slog.
It is, yeah.
It's very, very, very difficult.
Yes, that's why Lenin is like actually one of the best editors. He condenses everything into 10 chapters.
Yes.
Very easy to kind of take in. It's still hard reading, of course. Like it's very contextual, but like it's very easy to go by compared to Marx.
Yeah.
The reason why Capital needs to be read in a group or like it needs like discussion topics to go along with it.
Right.
Because it is so convoluted. It's amazing. It's like one of the best works probably ever made, but like it is so hard to get through.
Yeah. Of the Lenin stuff that I have read, I have enjoyed his stuff.
He's good.
Yeah, he knows
He's a
how
little
to.
sassy.
He's
a little sassy.
Yeah. And he's passionate.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to genuinely care about the people, and I appreciate that. So, yeah. So now that we've briefly talked about communism, I think now is as good a time as any to stop the podcast.
Stop the podcast.
So,
Das Vidanya.
Aspadania, exactly right. Okay, bye.